What if I told you that one of the most thoughtful messages ever, delivered about humanity, came not from a philosopher, not from a scientist, but from a gorilla? A gorilla who could speak to humans using sign language. A gorilla who played gently with tiny kittens, understood more than 1,000 words, joked with her caretakers, and even tried to invent her own language when words didn't exist. Her name was Koko, and before she died, she left the world with a haunting message about humanity and the future of our planet. Koko was born on July 4th, 1971, at the San Francisco Zoo in the United States. Her original name was Hanabi-ko, a Japanese phrase meaning fireworks child, a fitting name for a baby born on Independence Day. Eventually, the name was shortened to the simple and affectionate Koko. At first, she seemed like any other gorilla, but her life began with tragedy. When Koko was still an infant, she became seriously ill and had to be separated from her mother for medical treatment. By the time she recovered and was finally returned, her mother no longer recognized her. She rejected the young gorilla completely. Suddenly, Koko was alone. She was placed with unfamiliar gorillas and spent long periods isolated in a small enclosure. Her only comfort was a soft, plush toy gorilla. She held it tightly, hugging it as if it were the mother she had lost. No one yet realized that this lonely baby gorilla would soon change the way humans understood animal intelligence forever. In 1972, a young graduate student from Stanford University named Dr. Francine Patterson began an unusual experiment. She wanted to test whether a gorilla could learn American Sign Language. At the time, most scientists believed gorillas were not especially intelligent. They were often seen as distant, aggressive animals. Few researchers had ever attempted to communicate with them, but Patterson believed something different. Teaching Koko was not easy at first. Unlike human students, Koko refused to let anyone guide her hands into the correct positions for signs. Instead, Patterson had to patiently repeat gestures over and over again, showing objects and demonstrating the signs again and again. Then something remarkable happened. Koko began to understand. The very first sign she clearly used was drink, touching a finger to her lips. From there, her vocabulary exploded. By the time she was just 3 years old, Koko had already learned around 200 signs. Eventually, she would understand more than 1,000 spoken English words and communicate using hundreds of signs. But what shocked researchers most was not just her ability to memorize signs. It was her creativity. When Koko didn't know the word for something, she simply invented one. When she saw a ring, she called it a finger bracelet. When she looked inside an empty cup, she signed, "Drink no." The first time she saw a swan, she described it perfectly as a water bird. These weren't rehearsed responses. They showed that Koko understood meaning and could combine ideas in ways strikingly similar to human language. Even more surprising, Koko had a sense of humor. Once she jokingly told her trainer that she was a bird and could fly. Moments later, she admitted she was only kidding. Another time, after mischievously pulling Patterson's hair, she laughed and quickly signed an apology. These moments revealed something extraordinary. Koko seemed to understand that other beings had thoughts and emotions separate from her own. Scientists call this theory of mind, and it was something once believed to exist only in humans. As Koko grew older, her emotional world became even clearer. In 1984, for her birthday, Koko made a very specific request using sign language. She wanted a cat. Her caretakers brought several small kittens and allowed her to choose. After carefully inspecting each one, Koko selected a tiny gray kitten with no tail. She named him All Ball. Koko adored him. She carried the kitten gently on her back, cradled him in her enormous hands, and treated him like her own baby. Despite weighing more than 250 pounds, she handled the fragile kitten with incredible tenderness. But tragedy struck again. Later that same year, All Ball accidentally escaped the enclosure and was hit by a car. When caretakers told Koko what had happened, her reaction stunned everyone. At first, she sat completely still as if trying to understand. Then she began making soft, sorrowful sounds, deep moans that gorillas use to express grief. Through sign language, she repeatedly signed sad. She also signed sleep cat. For days afterward, she refused to play. She stopped eating normally and withdrew from social interaction. It looked heartbreakingly similar to human mourning. In the years that followed, Koko would adopt several more kittens, always treating them with the same gentle care. Videos of the enormous gorilla cradling tiny cats eventually spread across the internet, touching millions of people around the world. As Koko's fame grew, visitors from around the world came to meet her. One of the most memorable encounters happened when comedian Robin Williams visited Koko in the early 2000s. The moment they met, something magical happened. Koko laughed, tried on Williams's glasses, and invited him to tickle her. The two quickly began playing together like old friends. Years later, when Robin Williams passed away in 2014, caretakers told Koko the news. Her response was quiet and heartbreaking. She signed sad and cry, then spent the rest of the day moving slowly, her expression unusually subdued. Even without words, it seemed she understood. Koko's intelligence extended beyond language and emotion. She could draw simple pictures, play musical instruments like a recorder, and even recognize herself in a mirror, something many animals cannot do. But perhaps the most mysterious moments came when Koko was asked about death. One day, a caretaker showed her a skeleton and asked if it was alive or dead. Koko calmly signed dead. Then they asked a deeper question. Where do gorillas go when they die? Koko paused. Then she signed something chilling. Comfortable whole. Afterward, she gently blew a kiss goodbye. In her later years, Koko seemed to grow more reflective. She often used sign language to talk about nature and the environment. One message she gave became famous around the world. I am gorilla. I am flowers, animals. I am nature. Man stupid. Koko love Earth. Man hurt Earth. Help Earth. It was a simple message, but coming from a gorilla who had spent her life learning our language, it felt almost like a warning. On June 19, 2018, just weeks before her 47th birthday, Koko passed away peacefully in her sleep. Millions of people around the world mourned her death, but Koko left behind something far greater than fame. She changed how we see animals. She proved that intelligence, emotion, humor, grief, and even love are not uniquely human experiences. And perhaps most importantly, she reminded us that the creatures we share this planet with may understand far more than we ever imagined.